How are you, man? I'm Gil Roth, and you're listening to a bonus episode of my Virtual Memory Show podcast. This is a COVID check-in episode where I record with a past guest of the Virtual Memory Show to find out how they're holding up during the pandemic. As far as how I'm doing, meh. Didn't sleep great, ate compulsively yesterday, which partially led to the not sleeping great. I had my belated quarterly meeting with my board of trustees this afternoon, and I let some sort of anxiety build up around that. It'll go fine, I'm sure, but, if I didn't have insecurities and anxiety, where would I be? Anyway, in case you were concerned after yesterday's episode, our dog Bendico is doing fine. We took him to the vet in the afternoon. They cleaned up and bandaged his paw with its missing claw. Not missing. We have the claw. It's just not connected to his paw anymore. Amy went out to get him a new squeaky toy after we got home, so he was able to celebrate his birthday a little bit. I posted a doggo birthday request to the Darth account on Twitter, and that led to lots of love coming from his followers. Benny's only on Instagram and not Twitter, so he didn't see any of those well wishes directly, but I showed him and read some of them to him, and he seemed fine. Anyway, I've still got to get a morning run in, and let's get to today's guest. Glynnis Fawkes is joining me this time from Burlington, Vermont. Glynnis is a cartoonist, illustrator, archaeologist, teacher, parent, and a hell of a good person. Her newest books are Charlotte Bronte Before Jane Eyre and Persephone's Garden. And I always love talking to Glynnis because of her and her husband's classical Greek backgrounds and the way that sort of informs her art and her work, and in this case, her perspective on plagues and history. As caveats go, a little rustling on her mic and a couple of weird clicks every few minutes that come over through that. But that's about it. Here's me and Glynnis. How are you dealing, and is your family driving you insane?
They are not. They are good. Well, I can amend that immediately. Occasionally they do. Sometimes
any more so than usual?
I think this has intensified everything. My kids can drive me crazy just by not interacting, because then I know that they are like into their 10th hour on the iPads, and I'm wondering, are they getting their schoolwork done? So I've just been working on a comic about that, and I
saw the one you had, the quarantine. I forget where it ran, but yeah,
it was in 7 Days, Vermont. But I'm working on the extended dance version. That's
okay.
5 pages that I will. But because I don't want to show my kids the way I used to, because now they're teenagers and they mind. This one is set in 1347 during the Black Death, which maybe is kind of a cheesy gimmick. But
well, no, I think that's Roger Langridge has been doing daily diary comics through his Instagram. It's through his Patreon, but he started doing them for non-Patreon supporters. And he ran into the problem of one of his kids not wanting to be shown. And so he takes the kid out and does a whole story around the absence of the kid and, one or two more scenes. And then the kid flips out that, no, I didn't say I don't want to be in. I just don't want to be shown badly. And so that turned into, how do you define that? And the whole family dynamic when you're an artist who has to, when you're trying to represent, some type of reality.
Yes, I think so. That's exactly my issue here. The kids did say that we don't mind being in as long as it's that we don't look bratty. So I have to reconfigure the whole thing.
Well, Roger just basically upended the entire cosmos by posting one where he ends up shouting at his kid to take their headphones off at the table. And Roger is the nicest person in comics. You're really nice, but Roger's on just another plane as far as being the nicest guy in the world. The idea that he actually raised his voice at some point during this, all of us are just, oh my God, everything's falling apart. Roger actually shouted, or at least he used all caps and boldface for his word balloons.
Ooh, that's serious.
Yeah, it's got to be rough, but otherwise you guys are coping, or, how,
Yes.
how difficult has the transition been, I guess?
Well, it is a different, my existence is pretty much working here in my studio, so it hasn't changed a lot, but for the kids it has, and for my husband, John, who's teaches Greek and Latin at UVM. He's been home for a bunch of months. And actually, I think this has been very good for him. He was kind of getting pushed to the edge of too much, I don't know, responsibility sounds like, well, that's what a job is about, but he's chair, and there are so many cuts right now. And I think the pressure was really getting over the top. Also, we were about to put on another Greek play, and that got canceled. So that was
Which play?
We're putting on Aristophanes' Clouds.
Nice.
Yes. So in which he translated with kind of a group translation, and he wrote all the music, and there were rehearsals every night and costumes, and I was going to draw projections, and I made sets, and a lot. So that's a relief to not have to do that.
Most people treat these things as though they've lost some great opportunity, but yeah, I get where you're coming from. Has your background, both of your backgrounds with ancient Greece and of course the plague that strikes Athens, informed anything about how you're mentally dealing with where we are right now?
Yes, well, I think so. I think in about a month or more ago, I spent a week making a comic about plagues in the past that the New Yorker accepted, but they haven't run yet. And I wonder if
I was going to say, I haven't read it. Now I feel like a heel. I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, it hasn't run. So I don't feel like I missed out. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's not as ancient plagues aren't as timely as you'd think. I don't know. So I spent some time reading Thucydides' description of the plague, and Boccaccio really resonates. Also, people hiding out from the plague.
Daniel Mendelssohn, the professor up at Bard, has been posting his translations of Boccaccio every night.
Ooh, I need to follow that.
I'll send you a link to his Twitter feed. That's where he's been putting them up. So,
the other thing that I've been thinking about is working on a project to turn Eric Klein's book 1177 BC, the year civilization collapsed, into a graphic format, and he doesn't directly talk about plague, but there are a lot of interesting parallels between the end of the Bronze Age and now, like mega kings or sort of oligarch types that are controlling all trade, and climate change and plague could be part of it, but it doesn't show up so well on the archaeological record. But there was just an article in the New York Times citing this research. So that's kind of interesting.
Plus, there's all the other weird diseases that are going to crop up as the permafrost melts, and things that have been trapped under that for thousands of years start showing up. So we've got that to look forward to, too.
Exactly. Right.
How's the irrespective of the Greek side of things, your archaeology background in general, in terms of keeping a sort of historical perspective on who we are and how we all end up as strata, I guess.
Yes, exactly. I guess I think also working on the Bronte book has made me realize we have thought ourselves immune to things like this in the 20th century. I mean, it seems like people were used to thinking that they could die, or their, friends or family could die. I don't know about easily, but it's amazing to survive.
But there were common causes,
Yeah, I feel like we've really felt immune to that. Like you get all your vaccinations and you expect you'll live forever. And now here's something that has completely changed that.
Yeah. What's the vibe in your area of Vermont?
I live in Burlington, and Vermont there was news yesterday that we have the lowest growth rate in the country. And I think there was one new case in the past 3 or 4 days. And so I think it's pretty good here. And I mean, there's lots of space. Went for a hike and didn't see very many people yesterday. And actually have neighbors across the street, family of 4, and 3 of them tested positive. They had it and recovered. Oof. So I actually know people who had it, but otherwise I think we are quite insulated from the real world here. At least I am in this house.
Building a giant wall or anything to
I planted some beets.
Yeah, that's close. I'm saying anything to try to seem safe. Here in North Jersey, it's a nightmare, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I mean, we were just talking yesterday, UVM is like that's what brings people here besides I guess skiing and tourism. But what are we going to, I mean, it's like a closed community. There's no new cases. As soon as any students come, we're toast. So it's a big question about what will happen in the fall everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of travel I was supposed to do for business. These are conferences that haven't canceled yet, usually, I believe, because of like insurance purposes, but clearly there's no way we're all getting on a flight to Milan in, September or October for this show. Yeah. Oh, where were you going to go? What did you have planned?
I had a residency in Angoulême for the month of June.
Oh.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, yeah, June is not.
No, not happening. Yeah. And John he's supposed to run an ancient music event in Italy, and I was going to meet him and travel, but no.
What were you planning on working on in France?
Well, don't
jinx it. I apologize if it's a project you don't want to talk about.
No, I've got a third and nearly final draft of a book that's set in the late Bronze Age about a family of artists who flee the Santorini volcano and go to Knossos and then Egypt and then Cyprus. It's a bit autobiographical. It's a historical, prehistoric fiction, say. So that's my goal, is to finish that by the end of the summer. But the last time I went to Angoulême was in the middle of working on the Bronte book, and James Sturm said, "You're not going to work on that there, are you? You should work on your own stuff." And I was like, wow, okay, really? Thank you. And so that's where I wrote the first draft of this. So I did plan to start on this long, pushed to the future, sort of memoir I have of working in archaeology in the early 2000s, which is the book that I need to do before I die, whatever. I was
going to say, having seen I assume I've seen portions of this, unless you're talking about another iteration of what you've published. Yes. You need to finish that, and don't die. That's the other thing.
I know. That's the life goal. These two things.
Now, tell me about that residency. Like, what's the vibe like at those or at least the one you've attended in the past?
It's I've been twice, and once was in August, and there it was kind of quiet. Because it's vacation time. And 2 years ago, I was there half of May, half of June. And it's amazing because, I work alone in my house with all the demands of domestic life right outside the door and in the door. And there I was working maybe like 10 or 11 hours a day. And, well, maybe not. It was the best thing was meeting cartoonists from all over and, just talking about work and seeing how different people work and seeing where they're coming from in the sense of their work. And, I feel like being there gave me a big jump forward in my own work, just wanting to rise to the occasion because it doesn't happen so quickly if you're by yourself and easily distracted. So I think, the benefit of that is enormous, and just joking around with other people who are experiencing, like how do you organize these panels on a page? Or I remember conversations about page spreads and things that I hadn't talked about with anybody because I'm sort of isolated. And I think someplace like CCS, where I just started teaching last fall, is a very similar experience. I mean, in Angoulême, people are working on individual projects, and CCS, they are by the second year, but it is a group and a community that you're all in it together, and that's amazing. And I think through friendships, I've found a way to I don't know, evoke something of that. Especially going to conferences and meeting people where I otherwise would never have.
Yeah.
So
those opportunities that's what I was wondering, whether that social aspect of it,
it's huge.
Is the key benefit. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, I feel kind of shy actually. Like I remember the first day going to that studio, feeling like, well, what if I just stay in my apartment and just do all my work here, and that way I won't have to talk to anybody. But the people I met there, just like I'm in touch with a bunch of them, and I'm very glad to be.
Mm-hmm. Is there a similar vibe at all with the with the archaeology social circles you had back then? Given that you were in a very different type of life then, and
it's really, really the case, and that's exactly how I felt being there, and in archaeology though, like they don't want my personal style. Like you have to absolutely suppress it. And we joke about it. You don't want your drawing to stand out as original in any way because the goal is a scientific measured representation of an artifact. And it's exactly the opposite in a residency where, I mean, it's not, you want to express yourself clearly, not I mean, I don't want to do anything flashy, but I want to.
Yeah, you want it to be a Glynnis Fawkes drawing and a Glynnis Fawkes story. Yeah.
My story. Yes.
Now, when the pandemic and lockdown world began, did you have a period of acclimation, lack of focus, anything that, took you a while to okay.
Yeah, like I thought I could solve this. Not solve. Yeah. No, I think the really uncertain times of, what are they going to close the school? What's that going to look like? How long will it be closed? When I was, and I even gave my son like an assignment to graph how many cases in Vermont are there, and make our own spike chart. And and so checking the news every day, I disallowed myself to do that. And actually, I feel like besides, kids wandering in or me feeling like they need to, let's get some exercise, I feel like I have come back to focusing more than definitely than in the earlier days.
Yeah. Was there for me, there was a book I was in the middle of and I just couldn't make any progress with. And then I just jumped over to a much more propulsive novel that just, it kept me going for like 6 hours, blew through it and thought, oh, okay. Yeah, this is how you read. Let me get back to reading now. And, did you find that sort of hesitating on the things that you were bringing, the legacy stuff, I guess, that you were carrying into that new world?
Not so much, actually. One really nice thing we've been doing is reading for an hour or more every night. John reads, the kids listen. We've been dialing in his mother on Zoom, which is pretty great. So he has read us Tom Sawyer, Huck Finn, Lord of the Flies, and now we're reading To Kill a Mockingbird. So I think we all look forward to that time. And we've always read out loud to the kids. And but during school, I think it kind of disintegrated because everyone's pretty tired by the end of the day. And the kids they're teenagers, so you'd think they wouldn't stand for this, but I think it's sort of like something we do. But aside from that, I've also read books on my own, and time gets short at the end of the day, and I'm like, oh, I gotta pass out now. But I've been reading Natalia Ginzburg's book, Family Lexicon, which I really love because it's set during the war, or before and then during. And the way she skips over like the worst events in the war and talks about the details of her family life. So kind of it somehow emphasizes the gravity of the war at the same time. And just gives me ideas like, this is how you can do this. This is a way to record, small things that somehow take on a larger meaning. And also the difference between one event that happens or one thing that someone says and the continuous action. Like we used to do this. I just think of in other languages besides English, like the French passé composé as opposed to the continuous past. If that makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I trust you to handle it artfully, so that'll work.
Well,
yeah. Now, besides Angoulême and getting down to Italy, place you either have wanted to go that it's killing you because of this situation, or place you've discovered that, I never thought I'd want to go to place X, but now that I can't travel anywhere, I'd really love to go to that place.
That's funny. I think, I also planned to go back to Greece, but I can't do that. We have plane tickets to go to Portland, Oregon, where I'm from, in August, and I don't know whether we'll go, but I love to be there because my dad lives in this house next to the woods, and it's just otherwise you can't see him. I mean, I can't see him. It's amazing. We just we have some cool neighbors who have set out a bin of puzzles and books for exchange with the neighborhood, and we just did This is sort of indicates the level of depravity this situation has brought us to. We did 1,000-piece map of Canada puzzle, and I was looking at the edge of Hudson's Bay or like the Nunavut territory. I'm like, that would be interesting to go there. Or Labrador. Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah.
But
I once accidentally came upon an area north of Toronto. I was traveling to Ottawa, and in weather.com, I accidentally hit Ottawa, which is Ottawa with a Y on the end. It is potentially the coldest place in North America. I bookmarked it solely so I can go look, and Amy and I can guess how cold is it in Ottawa. And it's about 4 hours north, and I just like, what? Because I was going to Ottawa, and I'm like, it's minus 17 degrees. Where the hell? And then I realized it's slightly misspelled. So yeah, there are places in Canada that are the end of the world, but Labrador on the other hand,
I
I'm
would
sure
go
it's
in the summer maybe, or not at all. How about that?
Yeah,
not at all.
That's basically, yeah. I mean, that's what we're all bummed because last week would have been TCAF in Toronto.
Yes, thinking about that. Yes.
Yeah, favorite festival that you're not going to get to go to?
I love the internationalness of TCAF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just the whole vibe, being in Toronto, getting to all the great restaurants and everything, just missing out on that one in particular.
The museum, the Hall of Canadians.
Yeah. Oh, and the shoe museum, the Bata, as you head down. It's good going to at least once.
I noticed it, but I have to.
You should go. I'm not even joking. You should go.
I know.
It actually is pretty neat. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got that big fragmented Daniel Libeskind architecture out in front, but ignore that. It's a neat museum, depending on what the exhibition is, but the permanent collection's actually pretty impressive. But
next time I'll book in a week.
It's one of those things where, we travel for some of these shows, even for business, it's the same thing. You don't necessarily take advantage of those opportunities when you have them, and then it's a worldwide pandemic and you can't go anywhere. So, I guess we got to watch out for those.
Yeah.
Binging on TV. Are you one of those Netflix maniacs? Oh, good. You're a Vermont person, so you're going to tell me you don't own a TV, right?
We don't. Kidding. Actually, we don't. We do have computers, but there's one show I love, but because we read in the night, I don't know any shows. I love the French show called Call Your Agent.
Oh my God. The guy yesterday told me about that show, Witold Rybczynski. He mentioned that as the show he's binging on. I'd never heard of it, so I just put it on our Netflix queue. Amy's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "I don't know." Rybczynski says it's good, so we're going to give it a shot. So that's a double endorsement now. That's great.
I haven't seen very much. My kids are
good.
doing it for me.
And that's what they're there for. They're supposed to be the ones eating pop culture all the time. We're we're the old people.
Yeah.
But beyond that, though, do you find yourself diving into comics or other work that you've read in the past that is any sort of comfort food for you?
Let's see. I think because I think it was some recent birthday. Yes, that's what it was. My husband got me first edition Helen Hawkinson books, and my pal Summer Pierre just bought herself some too. So there's something. It's like very early New Yorker. That's definitely makes me happy.
I'm looking her up right now because the one advantage of doing these things remotely is that I can have a window open up while I'm talking to people. But
right.
I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know her. Well, I probably have seen her work, but didn't know who she was because because sexism, etc. So,
but they're very gentle, making fun of themselves, kind of. Yeah. But it reminds me of also, I'm not sure the who drew this cartoon, but it's from the Great Depression, some super wealthy dude talking about his wife. I didn't tell her about the Depression. She would have worried. They're people who can glide through without even noticing it.
Yeah. I get you. Now, you did mention Summer. Are you more or less in touch with remote friends? Not to say she's remote. She's just not in Vermont.
Right.
Do you find yourself, as opposed to me, being emotionally remote from everyone? Thanks. Do you find yourself, having more regular communication with distant friends?
Maybe more at the beginning. I check in with Summer and Ellen pretty regularly, and Jennifer Hayden too. amazing thing is having a Zoom conversation with two really good high school friends. One who teaches, actually, I think she's admin more at University of British Columbia. She's a geologist, and another one who teaches writing in Wisconsin. So it's amazing to see them after many years and just laugh about, I don't know, everything in this time. It's how we look exactly like we did in high school, and how much we look like our mothers is also amazing.
Yeah, I have grown the beard, which does resemble my father somewhat, but I've actually generally stayed out of that.
I think I look more like my father than my mother, even more now. Unless I aspire to look like Brian's mother from Life of Brian. Yeah.
Now, as far as quote unquote a new normal goes, are you finding anything in terms of like work practice or anything that you can imagine yourself carrying over to whatever we consider back to normal after this? Or do you see this still as a sort of exceptional period, and once this is done, I can go back to reading, writing, creating art the way I used to?
I think it really, for me, not a lot has changed that way. Yeah. But I also don't think this will ever be. I think like we went into it. It's sort of a slow shutting down of things. I think the opening up will be even slower. So I really don't know. But I think one thing I've been doing is like 30-minute strength training classes by a yoga teacher I really like. And that's pretty amazing in the middle of the day to just get really, to do a whole bunch of crunches or something. So it's I always come out of it with my mood quite altered, and other things like that would not really be possible. There's no way I would leave my house and go to a yoga place for half an hour in the middle of the day. Just not practical. But online, yeah, I can do that. There's been stuff at CCS that has been online, and driving an hour and a half down there is like, that's a whole day experience. Yeah. But seeing their graduation on, and the Vermont Cartoonist Laureate induction ceremony online, they were amazing and really lifted my spirits. And nice. It's so nice to feel part of something, even sitting alone at home. So there are things that this has given us that were possible before, but people just didn't do that. So yeah. I'm grateful for these things, and seeing friends online or
having disembodied voices from New Jersey, like
exactly. That's what I'm talking about. It is something
that I feel a little, the only positive for me, I realized how much time I was spending driving and taking subways and everything to and from these podcasts. And I thought,
and traveling for work, I imagine.
Yeah, the work thing is one thing, but like my weekends weren't just recording a podcast and editing and processing. There really was a shit ton of time I was spending, driving to and from places. And I realized, when it's feasible to sit down with people again, maybe I'll balance the in-person ones with some of these remote ones. Yeah. And that way I can not make my wife a podcast widow pretty much every weekend.
But I also wonder, the experience of being with someone in real life is so different. And I wonder if it'll be more precious, like also being in a classroom with people. Will that be more luxurious somehow? I mean, I think of the kids. My son was actually speaking, I think, a little bit nostalgically about school. And I think of school, especially, high school classes, as often quite boring, or, like, when am I going to get out of here? But,
right.
But maybe actually there's something good about that.
Well, again, the social, the in-person contact, like I've said this on a couple of past episodes. The only in-person conversation I've had besides Amy and my dog was with my neighbor who just moved out of her house a couple of weeks ago.
Oh.
Her granddaughter and boyfriend were hanging out behind the house at night. One night, I took Benny out, and I hear two people talking behind the next door neighbor's house. I'm like, God damn it! And I know Tammy moved away, and now I got to go over there and find out if it's a breaking and entering situation or whatever.
Yeah.
So I bring him back in the house. I go over, and I realize the moment the girl opens her mouth, I'm like, oh, you are Colleen's daughter. Okay, so I know what's going on, etc.
Yeah.
And Colleen wrote that, and I said, oh, well, my daughter was just kind of going stir crazy and wanted to have somewhere to go. I'm like, I don't know if she knows there was a guy there or not. I'm not going to say anything, whatever. So that aspect, though, I could imagine just just wanting to see other people and when you're a teenager and everything else, I'm sure that's part of it too. But
yes, the other, yes, even Helen is, she does not dig little kids. She really is not a kid who was like, oh, I want to, but she was looking out at the window and saying, children out there, I want to play with them, but not enough to actually do it, because that would,
of course,
be awkward.
Yeah. So it's good that we can still carry over our little anxieties and neuroses even into this. So I'm hoping maybe next year you'll have Angoulême. Maybe next year we'll be able to meet again at TCAF.
Yeah.
I'll keep my fingers crossed. And
I know it.
And I'm looking forward to your next comic. Do you have anything mini or otherwise on the horizon?
I only have really big tomes.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you're trying to do anything just outside of this potential thing in the New Yorker and your comic diary.
And another one. I mean, I've got a few things. I've just finished a big illustration job, with changes coming up, of informational signs for the Native American presence in Burlington, like pre-contact. So involving archaeology and art and design. So that's good. But it wasn't a comic. So.
Yeah. Well, again, I look forward to anything I could see of yours. So I'll keep my fingers crossed that you get to stay nice and productive and the kids don't drive you insane. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I need it. And same to you. Thanks for continuing to make these, Gil. It's really nice to hear hear your conversations. That's another thing that helps you feel connected.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I hope we get to see each other again soon. Well, soon is within a year and a half. So
yes.
Soon enough.
Yeah, soon enough.
And that was Glynnis Fawkes. Go check out her site, glynnisfawkes.com, to learn more about her books, comics, illustration, archaeology, and a whole lot more. And that's glynnisfawkes.com. She's on Twitter and Instagram as Glynnis Fawkes, all one word. And of course, links to all those will be in the show and episode notes for this one. Now, her newest books are Charlotte Bronte Before Jane Eyre, which was published by Little Brown Books for Young Readers and presented by the Center for Cartoon Studies, where Glynnis recently began teaching, and Persephone's Garden from Kilgore. You should also check out her Greek diary, which is part of that memoir project that she mentions. You can find all those through her site, glynnisfawkes.com. And we'll be back tomorrow with another COVID check-in. If you want to send me a little update to read on the air or have something you want to share with the listeners, let me know and we'll set up a time to record. I'm at groth18, GROTH18 at gmail.com. You can find my contact info at our sites, vmspod.com and chimeraobscura.com/VM. And you can find a link to the COVID-19 sessions at both of those sites with all of these daily episodes. And you can subscribe to the Virtual Memory Show via iTunes, Spotify, or your podcatcher of choice. Just grab our RSS feed from our website, and that way you can make sure you get every episode. You can also go back and check out the 370 or so in-person episodes I did in the before time. In the before time, I recorded in person, but now I'm using Zencastr.com so I can do these remote sessions. If you're interested in learning more about that, it is Zencastr, so no final E. There's a free hobby level that allows you and multiple guests, but there's a limit on the number, to call in and record each of your audio streams. I use the pro level, which has an unlimited amount, even though I only have one-on-ones because I have weird issues with addressing more than one person at a time, and gets you higher level audio quality by the end. So that's $20 a month. Don't give me money to cover that. My Patreon supporters are more than covering it, along with the web hosting costs that I have. I don't have any other expenses for the show anymore because I'm not driving into the city and paying tolls and parking and subway rides and all this stuff. So what I'm saying is, if you can spare anything, if you've got money, just a little bit extra on hand, give to the artists and writers and other creative people who are in need right now. My job treats me just fine, irrespective of how the board meeting goes this afternoon. It'll go fine. I'm just kidding. But really, just help out people who are in need. If you don't want to support individuals and would rather support a cause or a foundation, go find a good charity like your local food bank or other things that are helping people who are in need right now. I always say, if you can help someone and you don't, you're a bad person. So do what you can, okay? I am Gil Roth. It is Tuesday, May 19th, 2020, and this was a bonus episode of my Virtual Memories Show podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Keep the conversation going, stay safe, and wash your damn hands.